Captain De Yen Kim stood at the bridge window of the diplomatic vessel Harmony, watching the massive space station grow. Larger as they approached, the structure was unlike anything humanity had ever built. It stretched across the darkness of space like a silver wheel, each spoke glowing with lights from a dozen different alien civilizations. This was the Galactic Council headquarters, and today marked humanity's first official meeting with the advanced species who ruled this part of the galaxy. Doyen adjusted his formal uniform, making sure every detail was perfect. The clothing was simple and clean, designed to make humans appear friendly and harmless. No military decorations, no weapons, nothing that might suggest humanity was anything other than a peaceful species, just learning to travel among the stars. Behind him, Lieutenant Hae-Yuan Park worked at the navigation controls. Her fingers moved quickly across the display, guiding the ship into the designated docking path. She looked young in her plain uniform, her hair tied back neatly. No one watching would guess that 5 years ago she had flown combat missions in Earth's atmosphere, dodging missiles and eliminating enemy positions with cold precision. Docking sequence in 3 minutes, Captain Hae-Yuan said softly. Her voice was calm and professional, giving no hint of the trained killer beneath the diplomatic surface. Doyen nodded. Good work, Lieutenant. Remember, from this moment forward, we are simple explorers. Nothing more. Across the bridge, Corporal Minyu Choi checked the ship systems one final time. His fingers paused over the weapons console, which showed completely empty. The ship had no visible weapons, no military technology that might alarm their hosts. Earth had been very careful about that. Minyu's hands were steady, but Doyen knew what those hands could do. He had seen Minyu turn everyday materials into devastating explosives during the resource wars. He had watched him blow open fortified bunkers with nothing but scavenged parts and creativity. Ambassador Jiu Li entered the bridge, smiling warmly. Unlike the others, Jiu was a true civilian, someone who genuinely believed in peaceful contact with alien species. She was in her 50s, with kind eyes and a gentle manner that put others at ease. She had spent her entire career working toward this moment, dreaming of the day humanity would join the greater galactic community. Isn't it beautiful? Jiu said, gazing at the space station. Just think, Doyen, in a few hours humanity will officially be part of something bigger than ourselves. No more wars, no more fighting over scraps on a single planet. We'll have friends among the stars. Doyen smiled at her enthusiasm, but said nothing. He had learned long ago not to share his darker thoughts with civilians. Like Jiu, she didn't need to know about the classified reports he had read. She didn't need to know that Earth's military command expected this first contact to eventually go wrong. Humans had a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Earth was hoping for peace but preparing for war. Harmony docked with a soft thud. Doyen took a deep breath and led his small team through the airlock and into the station. The moment they stepped inside, they entered a world completely alien to human experience. The corridor was massive, built for creatures much larger than humans. The walls pulsed with soft bioluminescent light, and the air smelled of things Doyen couldn't identify. Other beings moved through the space around them. Some walked on two legs like humans, others floated or crawled or moved in ways that defied easy description. A tall insectoid creature approached them. It stood nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and a body covered in smooth, dark exoskeleton. Its head was triangular with multiple eyes that glittered like black jewels. This was a Velari, one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galactic council. Welcome humans, the creature said through a translation device that hung around its neck. The voice that emerged was surprisingly pleasant, almost musical. I am Commander Zelvith of the Velari High Command. And GT, we have been expecting you. And GT, please follow me to the council chamber. As they walked through the station, Doyen noticed how the other aliens looked at them. There was curiosity in those strange eyes, but also something else, amusement perhaps, or pity. The humans were clearly the smallest, weakest-looking beings in sight, even the species that walked on 2 legs like humans seemed stronger with thicker muscles and natural armor or weapons built into their bodies. The council chamber was a vast circular room with seating arranged in tiers. Representatives from dozens of species sat watching as the humans entered. At the center of the room stood a raised platform where Ambassador Jiu would make her speech. Kelvith gestured toward the platform with one of his 4 hands. Ambassador Lee, please address the council. We are eager to learn about your species. Jiu walked confidently to the platform, her face glowing with hope. Doyen, Huan, and Minyu took positions along the wall, standing at attention in their clean, simple uniforms. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Jiu began, her voice carrying through the chamber. Humanity comes before you today in a spirit of peace and friendship. We are a young species new to the stars. We have only been traveling beyond our own planet for 15 years. In that time we have learned so much, but we know we have much more to learn. She paused, letting her words sink in. We come from a world called Earth. It is a beautiful planet full of life and diversity. We have faced many challenges as a species, learning to work together and overcome our differences. Now we wish to join the galactic community as students and friends. We hope to learn from your ancient wisdom and perhaps one day contribute something of value to this great civilization you have built. The council members listened, their alien faces unreadable. In the front row, Doyen noticed several Velari leaning toward each other, their mandibles clicking in what might have been conversation. Behind them sat representatives of the core mass, a reptilian species with scales that shimmered like oil on water. One of the core mass stood, his voice deep and resonant. Tell us, Ambassador, what can your species offer the council? What makes humanity worthy of membership? Chiu smiled. We offer friendship and a willingness to learn. We may not have the advanced technology or ancient knowledge of established species, but we have hearts full of hope and minds eager for understanding. We believe that diversity makes us all stronger, and we wish to add our unique perspective to the council's wisdom. More clicking from the Velari section. Dian's hand unconsciously moved toward his hip, where a weapon would have hung in his military days. He forced himself to relax. This was a diplomatic mission. Violence was not an option. The head of the council, an elderly Velari with silver markings on his exoskeleton, raised one hand for silence. The council has discussed humanity's application for Membership, we have decided to accept you, but with conditions. You must prove yourselves worthy through actions, not just words. Jiu bowed respectfully. We understand and accept whatever test you deem appropriate. Good, the elder continued. We are assigning your species a colony world. It is called New Haven. A small planet in a peaceful sector. You will establish a settlement there. After 1 year, we will evaluate your progress. If you prove capable of peaceful colonization and good relations with neighboring species, you will be granted full council membership. The chamber erupted in sounds of approval from various species. Jew and LT Unk and GTS face lit up with joy. She bowed deeply. Thank you, honored council. Humanity will not disappoint you. As they left the chamber, Minyu moved closer to Down. His voice was barely a whisper. Did you notice how they looked at us, Captain? Like we're pets or prey? Doyen nodded. Slightly. I noticed. Stay alert, Corporal, but keep it to yourself. We're here to make peace, not start wars. Later that evening, in their assigned quarters on the station, Doyen sat alone, reviewing the files on New Haven. The planet looked perfect, maybe too perfect. Good atmosphere, plenty of water, fertile soil, the kind of world that would normally already be colonized by one of the more established species. His communication pad blinked. A message from Earth, heavily encrypted. Doyen opened it and read quickly. The message was from High Command. It contained new intelligence about the Valerian core mess. Both species had histories of aggressive expansion, though they had been peaceful for the last 1,000 years. The report ended with a simple instruction: maintain diplomatic posture, but be ready for anything. Doyen deleted the message and stared out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the colony ship was already being prepared. 50,000 civilians would make the journey to New Haven, along with 500 security personnel. Those security personnel would include 300 veterans like himself and Minyu, people who knew how to fight, how to survive, how to win against impossible odds. The civilians didn't need to know about that. They could believe in the peaceful future Ambassador Jiu dreamed of, but Doyen and his veterans would be ready just in case those dreams turned into nightmares. He looked at his reflection in the window. The face that stared back looked young and peaceful, the face of a simple ship captain, but behind those eyes was something the aliens hadn't seen yet. Behind those eyes was the accumulated knowledge of thousands of years of human warfare, strategy, and survival. Valari thought humans were innocent children of the stars. 6 months had passed since the colony ships landed on New Haven. Settlement had grown beyond everyone's expectations. Prefabricated buildings now formed neat streets and squares. Farms stretched across the fertile valleys, producing more food than the colonists could eat. Children played in parks while adults worked to build their new home. From orbit, the settlement looked peaceful and innocent, exactly what the Galactic Council wanted to see. Major Sun Hai Kang walked along the perimeter of the main settlement, checking the defensive positions that the civilians knew nothing about. To anyone watching, she was just the security chief making her rounds, but Sun Hai was much more than that. She had commanded Marine units during Earth's climate wars, the brutal conflicts where entire nations fought over water and arable land. She knew how to defend a position against Overwhelming odds, she knew how to turn ordinary terrain into a death trap for invaders. Beside her walked Sergeant T. Juno, a quiet man who rarely spoke, unless he had something important to say. Taeyeon carried a rifle that looked standard issue, but Sunhai knew it had been modified for much greater range and accuracy. Before joining the colony mission, T. Jun had been one of Earth's most decorated snipers. He could hit targets at distances that would seem impossible to most species in the galaxy. The sensor net is complete, Taeyeon said quietly. Every approach to the colony is monitored. If anything bigger than a bird moves out there, we'll know about it. Sunhai nodded. Good. What about the supply caches hidden in 6 locations around the settlement? Weapons, ammunition, medical supplies, explosives, everything we might need if things go wrong. Let's hope they don't, Sunhai said, but her tone suggested she didn't believe that hope. She had read the same intelligence reports as Captain Diyin. The Velari had a pattern. They would welcome new species with friendship, assign them valuable colony worlds, then create a crisis that gave them an excuse to take control. It had happened to at least 4 other species over the last 2,000 years. The Galactic Council always looked the other way because the Velari were powerful and influential. In the settlement's medical center, Dr. Yuna Shin was training local nurses on advanced trauma care. Yuna was young, only 32, but she had more experience with combat wounds than most doctors twice her age. She had worked in field hospitals during the worst years of the resource wars, operating on soldiers while shells exploded nearby. Her hands never shook, even when everything around her was chaos. The key to treating laser burns is immediate cooling and cellular regeneration therapy, Yuna explained to her students, showing them alien medical equipment the Velari had provided. But if we don't have access to proper equipment, we can use these alternatives. She showed them techniques using basic materials, methods developed during Earth's wars when proper medical supplies ran out. One of the nurses, a young woman named Hana, raised her hand. Dr. Shin, why are we learning combat medicine? The Galactic Council said this is a peaceful sector. Yuna smiled gently. It's always better to have knowledge and not need it than to need it and not have it. Besides, accidents happen in any colony. People get hurt working with machinery or in farm accidents. These skills are useful for many situations. That evening, as the colony's 2 suns set beyond the mountains, Ambassador Ju Li sat in her office reviewing progress reports. Everything was going perfectly. Food production was ahead of schedule. Colonists were happy and healthy. Relations with the few passing ships from other species had been friendly. In just 6 more months, the evaluation period would end and humanity would become a full member of the Galactic Council. Her communication console blinked. An incoming transmission from a Velari ship in orbit. Ju accepted the call, expecting a routine check-in. Instead, the screen showed Commander Zelveth, the same Velari who had welcomed them at the Council Station 6 months ago. Ambassador Lee Zelveth said, his musical voice somehow sounding different now, colder. I regret to inform you that the Galactic Council has discovered serious violations of the colonization treaty. Ju felt her heart skip. Violations? What violations? We've followed every rule, every guideline you gave us. You have failed to register 17 separate industrial facilities, Zelvith said. You have exceeded the allowed energy output by 34%, and our sensors have detected unauthorized military technology in your settlement. That's impossible, Jew protested. We've been completely transparent. Every facility was reported, our energy use is well within limits, and we have no military technology, only basic security equipment. The evidence is clear, Zelvith said. I am transmitting the documentation now. Under Article 15 of the Colonization Treaty, the Galactic Council is authorized to intervene in cases of serious violations. Peacekeeping force is already entering your atmosphere. They will take control of the colony while the Council investigates these matters. Jew and LT Unk and GTS hands trembled as she looked at the documents Zelvith sent. They were obvious fabrications, false readings, manipulated data, outright lies, but they looked official, stamped with the Galactic Council seal. This is wrong, Jew said. These documents are false. I demand to speak to the full Council. Communication with Earth and the Council station has been temporarily suspended during the investigation, Zelvith said. Do not resist the peacekeeping force. Ambassador, cooperation will make this process much easier for everyone. The transmission ended. Jew sat frozen for a moment, her mind refusing to accept what was happening. Then she heard the sound of ships descending from orbit, their engines roaring like thunder. She ran to the window and saw them, dozens of Valeria assault craft dropping toward the settlement, their hulls gleaming in the dying light. On the perimeter, Sunhai had already seen them coming. Her encrypted communication device buzzed with reports from all around the colony. 20 landing zones, at least 500 troops per zone, 10,000 Velari warriors fully armed and armored, descending on a colony of 50,000 civilians protected by only 500 security personnel, all units. Defensive positions, Sunhai commanded. Quietly, do not engage unless fired upon. Let's see what they do first. Veltari ships landed in perfect formation, creating a ring around the settlement. Troops poured out there, exoskeletons covered in combat armor, carrying weapons that hummed with contained energy. They moved with the confidence of soldiers who had never lost a battle, who expected quick and easy victory. Commander Selvith's ship landed in the colony's central square. He emerged flanked by guards, his forearms spread in a gesture that might have been meant to appear peaceful. Colonists gathered nervously, unsure what was happening. Sunhai and her security team took positions nearby, weapons holstered but hands ready. Ambassador Ju pushed through the crowd, her face pale but determined. Commander Zelvith, what is the meaning of this? We have violated no treaties. We have done nothing wrong, the evidence says. Otherwise, Zelvith replied, but that is not important now. What matters is that you understand your situation. You are surrounded, you are outnumbered, you have no weapons capable of fighting us, and no way to call for help. Your choice is simple: surrender peacefully and your people will be treated fairly. Resist, and we will be forced to use violence. Surrender to what? Ju demanded. What do you want from us? Your colony is now under Velari protection, Selvith said. Your people will work for us following our instructions. In return, you will be allowed to live. It is a generous offer, considering your violations of council Law, the crowd murmured in confusion and fear. Sunny felt her jaw tight. So this was it. The trap had been sprung. The Velari had never intended to let humans join the council as equals. They had given humanity a valuable world, waited for them to build something worth taking, then manufactured an excuse to seize it. You're talking about slavery, Jew said, her voice shaking with anger. This is barbaric. The Galactic Council will never approve of this. The Council will approve what we tell them to approve, Selvit said. We are one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. Your kind are newcomers, barely capable of space travel. No one will challenge us over a single small colony of primitives. He raised one hand and his guards moved forward. You have 1 hour to decide. Surrender or face the consequences. As the Velari returned to their ships, Ju turned to Sunhai, tears streaming down her face. This can't be happening. We came in peace. We've done everything they asked. Soon he put a hand on the ambassador's shoulder. I know, but peace requires both sides to want it. The Vari never wanted peace. They wanted conquest. What do we do? Ju asked. They're right. We're outnumbered. We have no weapons. We can't call for help. Sunhai looked at the Velari ships surrounding the colony. 10,000 warriors against 500 security personnel, 20-1 odds. Any sane military commander would surrender, but Sunhai had fought in battles where the odds were even worse. She had seen what well-trained, desperate humans could do when their backs were against the wall. Get all civilians to the shelters, Sunhai said quietly. Tell them it's a safety drill. Move quickly, but don't panic. What are you going to do? Ju asked. What we were trained to do, Sunhai replied. The hour ended with Ambassador Ju standing in the central square, surrounded by Velari warriors. She held her head high, refusing to show fear, even though her heart was racing. Behind her, the colony appeared quiet and empty. The civilians had evacuated to underground shelters following the drill procedures that Major Sunhai had made them practice every week. Veltari thought the humans were hiding in fear. They had no idea the civilians were being moved to safety so the real soldiers could do their work. Commander Zelvith approached with his guards, his mandibles clicking in satisfaction. A wise choice, Ambassador. Where are your security forces? They must surrender their weapons before we can proceed. They're preparing to surrender, Jiu said, her voice steady despite the lie. But first, I want your word that no harm will come to our civilians. You are in no position to negotiate, Zelvith said, but I am feeling generous. Your people will not be harmed if they cooperate. Now call your guards here. Immediately, Ju raised her hand to her communicator, but before she could speak, the world exploded into chaos. The first explosion came from the eastern perimeter, a massive blast that sent a Velari transport ship tumbling through the air, its hull torn open by Corporal Minu Choi's carefully placed charges. The ship crashed into 2 others, creating a chain reaction of destruction that lit up the evening sky. The Velari warriors spun toward the explosion, their weapons ready. In that moment of distraction, Sergeant Tano fired from his position in the hills. His first shot took down a Velari officer, the bullet punching through the weak point where the alien's helmet met its armor. His second shot hit another officer before the first body even hit the ground. Tin had learned his craft during Earth's wars, where one bullet had to Count because supplies were limited, he made every shot perfect around the colony perimeter. Similar scenes unfolded, human veterans who had been hidden in carefully prepared positions opened fire. They used tactics the Velari had never encountered. Instead of standing and fighting like the honorable warriors the aliens expected, the humans shot from concealment and immediately moved to new positions. They appeared, killed, and vanished like ghosts. Lieutenant HFY Park launched her fighter from a hidden hangar built into the side of a hill. The aircraft was old by Earth standards, decades old technology, but it was fast and maneuverable, and HFY knew how to fly it better than anyone. She screamed across the colony at low altitude, her weapons firing in controlled bursts. Velari ships exploded as her missiles found their targets. She pulled up hard, dodging return fire, already plotting her next attack run. The Velari response was immediate but confused. They had overwhelming numbers, but they didn't know where to shoot. Humans weren't standing in formation like proper soldiers. They weren't following the rules of warfare that the galaxy had used for thousands of years. They were fighting like demons, appearing from nowhere, striking hard, then disappearing before the Velari could react. Commander Zelvith grabbed Ambassador Jew, using her as a shield. Order them to stop, he demanded. Order your warriors to surrender or I will kill you. Jew looked at him with something like pity. You don't understand, she said quietly. I'm not a warrior. I can't order them to do anything, and even if I could, they wouldn't stop. You threatened their families. You tried to enslave their people. Now you're going to learn what humans really are. A single shot rang out from the hills. The bullet hit Zelvith's hand, the one holding a weapon, to Jiu and LT Unk and GT's head. The alien screamed and dropped her before his guards could react. More shots came from different directions. The guards fell, their armor useless against the precision of human marksmanship. Major Sun Haikang appeared from a building nearby, her weapon raised. Ambassador, get to the shelter now. Jiu ran, and soon he provided covering fire as more Velari warriors rushed toward them, but they were moving into a kill zone. Corporal Minu had planted explosives along the main street, carefully hidden under decorative stones and in flower boxes. When the aliens reached the center of the zone, he triggered the charges. The street erupted in fire and shrapnel. The Velari had never seen improvised explosive devices before. They had no training for them, no defense against them. Dozens died in seconds. The battle raged through the night. The Velari had superior numbers and better weapons, but the humans had something more valuable: experience. Every human veteran in that colony had survived wars that would have destroyed most species. They knew how to fight. When outnumbered, they knew how to turn disadvantages into advantages. They knew how to make every bullet, every explosive, every drop of blood count for something. Staff Sergeant Boranam led a small team through the darkness outside the colony's perimeter, while the main Velari force focused on the settlement. Bora was hitting their supply lines. She and her team moved like shadows, approaching the alien supply depot from downwind. The Velari guards never saw them coming. Bora's team killed the guards silently, using knives and bare hands, techniques learned from Earth's oldest wars. Then they planted charges throughout the depot and faded back into The night the explosion destroyed a week's worth of food and ammunition for the Velari force, Corporal Jian worked in a hidden communications bunker, deep underground, while the battle raged. Above, Jiun was fighting a different kind of war he worked frantically at, his equipment trying to break through the Velari jamming that blocked communication with Earth. Jiun had been a signals officer during the cyber wars, when nations fought each other through electronic systems as much as with physical weapons. He understood alien technology better than most humans, because at its core, all technology followed the same basic principles. After hours of work, Jiun found a weakness in the jamming system. It wasn't much, just a narrow frequency band that the Velari hadn't covered properly, but it was enough. He sent out a compressed data burst aimed at the nearest human relay station in deep space. The message was simple: New Haven under attack. Feltari betrayal. Send help by dawn. The Velari had lost more than 4,000 warriors, almost half their force destroyed by 500 humans in a single night. The alien commanders were in shock. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humans were supposed to be weak, primitive, easy prey. Instead, they were fighting like a species that had been born in fire and tempered in blood. Commander Zelvith, his hand bandaged, but his pride wounded worse, gathered his surviving officers in his command ship. This is impossible, he said, his voice no longer musical but harsh and grating. How are they doing this? They have inferior technology. They are outnumbered. They should have surrendered hours ago. They fight without honor, one officer said. They hide and strike from shadows. They use traps and deception. This is not warfare as civilized species practice it. It's working, another officer said grimly. Whatever they call it, it's killing us. Zelth slammed one of his 4 hands against the console. Send a message to the core mess. Tell them we need reinforcements immediately and chain our tactics. If the humans want to fight like animals, we will burn them out. Prepare the incendiary weapons. We'll destroy the colony entirely if we have to. But changing tactics wasn't simple. The Velari were trained for conventional warfare, the kind practiced by civilized species for thousands of years. Stand in formation, advance under covering fire, capture territory, hold ground. The humans weren't playing by those rules. They gave up ground easily, then took it back when the Velari weren't looking. They never stayed in one place long enough to target. They turned the entire colony into a maze of death traps and kill zones. Private Yunji Han, the youngest soldier in the colony at only 22 years old, crouched in the ruins of a building that the Velari had destroyed the night before. Despite her youth, Yunji had grown up in the ruins of Earth's megacities, learning to fight in urban environments where every building could hide enemies and every street corner could be an ambush point. She watched as a Velari patrol approached, following the route she had predicted. They moved in standard formation, professional and organized. They had no idea they were walking into a trap. Yunji waited until they were in the perfect position, then triggered her surprise. The building behind the patrol collapsed, not by accident but by carefully placed charges. That mean you had helped her prepare. The aliens were trapped between the rubble and Unjai's position. She opened fire, her weapon set to short controlled bursts. Trapped Velari had nowhere to hide. By the time reinforcements arrived, Yunji was gone, already moving to her next position in the medical center. Dr. Yuna Shin worked without rest, treating wounded humans as they were brought in. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, cleaning wounds, stopping bleeding, performing emergency surgery. When necessary, the medical center was marked with huge symbols indicating it was a hospital protected under the rules of war, but Yuna had prepared for the possibility that the Velari wouldn't respect those rules. Hidden weapons were positioned around the center, and several of her medical staff were actually combat veterans with first aid training. As the battle entered its second day, Lieutenant Hyun Park prepared for another sortie and her fighter. The message that Corporal Jihan sent through the Veltari jamming reached Earth after 3 days of travel through deep space relays. It arrived at military headquarters in Geneva, where Admiral Sman Ryu was reviewing fleet deployment schedules. The moment she read the message, everything changed. Admiral Soman was 60 years old, a veteran of every major conflict Earth had seen in the past 3 decades. She had thin gray hair and deep lines around her eyes, marks of too many years making impossible decisions. She had been against the peaceful contact mission. From the beginning, she had warned the politicians that the galaxy wasn't as friendly as they hoped. Now her warnings had come true, and 50,000 civilians were paying the price. She immediately called an emergency meeting of Earth's military command. Within an hour, every major military leader on the planet was connected through secure channels. The situation is clear, Sman said, her voice hard as steel. The Valkyrie have betrayed us. They've attacked New Haven with the intention of enslaving our people. This is an act of war. What about the Galactic Council? One general asked. Shouldn't we appeal to them first? Try diplomatic solutions. The council either approved this or turned a blind eye to it. Commander Kyung-ho Lee responded. Kyung-ho was the head of Earth's intelligence service, a quiet man who saw and knew everything that mattered. We've been analyzing the Velari's history. They've done this before. 4 other species were given colony worlds, then enslaved under false pretenses. The council did nothing. We can't rely on alien law to protect us. Then what do we do? Another commander asked. Admiral Sman stood up. Her decision already made. We stopped pretending. For 15 years we've hidden our military strength, made ourselves look weak and harmless. That ends now. We deploy the 3rd Fleet to New Haven immediately, and we show the galaxy exactly what humanity is capable of. The 3rd Fleet had been Earth's secret weapon, built over 15 years and hidden in the outer solar system where alien sensors couldn't detect it. 50 warships, each one designed using lessons learned from centuries of human warfare. They looked crude compared to the elegant alien vessels, but they were built for one purpose: to win battles at any cost. While the fleet prepared to launch, Commander Kyung-ho worked on a different kind of weapon. He gathered every piece of information about humanity's military history, videos, records, analysis of tactics and strategies. Earth's wars had been brutal and terrible, conflicts that would horrify most species in the galaxy, but they had also taught humanity lessons that no other species had learned, lessons written in blood and fire. Are you sure about this? His assistant specialist Hyun Seo asked. Han was young, barely 30, but she understood the power of information better than most people. If we show them our real history, they'll see us as monsters, they'll see us as dangerous. Kyung-ho corrected, there's a difference. Right now the galaxy thinks we're prey, we need them to understand. We're predators, but we need to do it. Carefully, we show them the horror of our wars, yes, but we also show them that we chose to stop. We show them that we're not monsters, we're just people who know the real cost of violence. On New Haven, the battle entered its fifth day. The Cormie's reinforcements had arrived, adding 20,000 fresh troops to the Velari forces. The humans were now outnumbered more than 50 to 1, but the aliens were learning that numbers didn't mean victory. Major Sun Haikang had adapted her strategy. Instead of trying to defend the entire colony, she let the aliens occupy the outer areas while her forces held key positions. The settlement became a maze of defended strong points connected by tunnels that the Velari didn't know existed. The aliens could walk down a street thinking they controlled it, only to have humans emerge from below and attack them from behind. Sergeant Tjun-Oh had become a legend among the human fighters. He moved through the colony like a ghost, appearing in unexpected places, taking impossible shots, then vanishing before anyone could find him. The Velari had started calling him the Shadow and offering rewards for his capture. Tjun found this amusing. During Earth's wars, he had been one of dozens of snipers, just as skilled. The aliens had no idea what humanity was really capable of. The Valerian Kormas tried different tactics. They brought in heavy armor, but Corporal Minyu Choi destroyed the vehicles with improvised anti-tank weapons. They tried aerial bombardment, but Lieutenant Haywin Park shot down their bombers before they could reach their targets. They tried surrounding human positions and starving them out, but Staff Sergeant Boronum's teams raided their supply lines every night. In desperation, the aliens decided to capture human prisoners for interrogation. A Koramas Special Forces team identified a human position and launched a surprise attack, hoping to take prisoners before the defenders could escape. They succeeded in capturing 3 humans, including Private Yoon Ji-han. The aliens brought their prisoners to Commander Zelvith, hoping to finally understand how such a weak species was defeating them. Zelvith looked at the young woman standing before him. She was small, barely reaching his chest, with dirt on her face and blood on her uniform. She looked exhausted and scared. Surely she would tell them what they wanted to know. Why do you fight? Zelvith asked. You cannot win. Your forces are tiny compared to ours. We have better weapons, better armor, better everything, yet you refuse to surrender. Why? Yoonji looked up at him with eyes that had seen too much violence for her age. You threatened our families, our children. You tried to make us slaves. What did you think would happen? We thought you would be reasonable. Zelvith said, we thought you would accept reality. Most species understand when they are defeated. Most species didn't grow up on Earth, Yoonji said quietly. You have no idea what we survived to get here, the wars we fought, the things we endured. You think this is hard? This is nothing compared to what we've already been through. Zelvith felt something he hadn't felt in decades of warfare, unease. This small creature wasn't acting like a prisoner. She wasn't begging for mercy or trying to negotiate. She was simply stating facts as if the outcome was already decided. before he could question her. Further explosions rocked the command ship. Major Sunhai had launched a rescue operation while the aliens interrogated their prisoners. Sergeant T. Jun provided covering fire from outside the ship. Corporal Minu planted breaching charges on the hull, and a dozen human soldiers stormed the vessel, fighting through corridors they had never seen before. Guided by Yunji's hidden tracking beacon, the rescue took 11 minutes. The humans extracted their people and escaped before the Velari could organize a proper response. The Cormes Special Forces team that had captured the prisoners was wiped out to the last soldier. The message was clear: taking human prisoners was more dangerous than fighting them in open battle. On the 8th day, Earth's Third Fleet arrived. Admiral Sman Ryu stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable, watching New Haven grow larger on her screens. She had pushed her ships to their limits to get here this fast. Now she was going to make the Velari regret ever hearing the name human. Open communications on all frequencies. Sman ordered, "I want every ship in the system to hear this message." When the channels opened, her voice rang out clear and cold. "This is Admiral Sman Ryu of the Earth Defense Fleet. To all Velari and Cormes forces, you have committed an act of war against humanity. You have attacked our civilians and attempted to enslave our people. You now have one chance to survive. Withdraw from New Haven immediately or face the consequences." Commander Zelvith responded from his damaged command ship, "You are bluffing. Your fleet is small. We have orbital defense platforms and hundreds of support vessels. You cannot possibly defeat us." "Watch and learn," Sman said quietly. The battle that followed lasted 6 hours and became a turning point in galactic history. Earth's warships moved like nothing the aliens had seen before. They didn't follow the formal battle patterns that galactic warfare had used for thousands of years. They used wild maneuvers, crazy tactics, strategies that seemed insane until they worked. Human ships pretended to retreat, drawing alien vessels into traps. They used asteroids and debris as cover, appearing from unexpected directions. They fired missiles that maneuvered independently, overwhelming alien defense systems designed for predictable threats. The alien forces had superior numbers and technology, but human crews had experience. Every captain in the Third Fleet had trained for this moment, studying ancient Earth naval battles and adapting those lessons to space warfare. They fought with the accumulated knowledge of humanity's entire military history. Thousands of years of warfare compressed into 6 hours of brutal combat. When it ended, the alien forces were shattered. 30 Velari warships destroyed, along with 40 core mass support vessels. The orbital platforms were reduced to floating debris. Earth's fleet had lost 7 ships, a heavy price, but they had won decisively. On the surface of New Haven, the surviving alien ground forces surrendered. They had no choice. Their fleet was gone, their supplies were destroyed, and they had finally realized what they were fighting. These weren't innocent children of the stars. These were the survivors of Earth. Emergency session of the Galactic Council took place 3 weeks after Earth's broadcast. Representatives from every member species filled the Great Chamber, but the atmosphere was completely different from the last time humanity had stood here. Than they had been welcomed as innocent newcomers. Now the chamber buzzed with fear, anger, and Uncertainty. Captain De Yen Kim stood at the central platform, but he was no longer dressed in simple diplomatic clothing. He wore his full military uniform, medals earned in Earth's wars displayed openly. Beside him stood Admiral Soman Ryu and Commander Kyung-ho Lee. Behind them on massive screens, images from the Battle of New Haven played on repeat. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had nothing left to hide. The head of the council, the elderly Velari with silver markings, called for order. His voice had lost its previous confidence. Captain Kim, humanity stands accused of extreme violence against peacekeeping forces. The Valerian Corps claim your species attacked without provocation, using barbaric tactics that violate all galactic standards of warfare. Doyen stepped forward, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. The Valari lie. They attacked our colony first. Under false pretenses, they attempted to enslave our people. We have complete recordings of Commander Zelvith's ultimatum and the subsequent attack. We defended ourselves, as any species has the right to do. A Koramas representative stood, his scales shimmering with agitation. Even if that's true, your methods were horrific. You used tactics designed to cause maximum casualties. You set traps, used explosives against unsuspecting soldiers, shot from hiding like cowards. This is not how civilized species conduct warfare. Perhaps that's why you lose when you fight us, Dunn replied coldly. You fight by rules designed to limit casualties and preserve honor. We fight to win and protect our people. There is no honor in losing. There is no civilization in slavery. The council chamber erupted in arguments. Some species supported the Valerian Corps, calling for sanctions against humanity. Others, particularly the younger and weaker species, remained silent, but their eyes showed something different. Hope, perhaps, or recognition. Admiral Sman raised her hand for silence. Council needs to understand something fundamental about humanity. We didn't develop in a peaceful galaxy. We developed on a single planet, competing with ourselves for survival. For thousands of years, we fought wars over territory, resources, ideology, religion, and sometimes for no good reason at all. We made terrible mistakes. We committed atrocities we still haven't forgiven ourselves for. She paused, letting her words sink in. But we learned. Every war taught us something. Every defeat made us adapt. Every victory showed us the cost of violence. We developed weapons that could destroy our entire world, then stepped back from using them because we understood the consequences. We created laws to limit warfare, to protect civilians, to treat prisoners with dignity. We chose peace not because we were weak, but because we had grown strong enough to make that choice. Commander Kyung-ho activated another display. This one showed Earth's current military capabilities, advanced warships hidden throughout the solar system, defensive networks that could detect threats light years away, weapons, research programs that had continued even during the peaceful contact years, manufacturing capacity that could produce warships faster than any other known species. This is what we've been hiding, Kyung-ho said, not because we wanted to deceive you, but because we hoped never to need it. We wanted to join your council as friends and equals. The Velari forced us to reveal what we really are, a small mammalan species. The back of the chamber stood up. They were the Takari, one of the youngest species in the Council, barely 300 years into space travel, their representatives spoke quietly but firmly. What guarantees can you give that humanity won't use this military power to conquer others? You've shown us you're capable of terrible violence. Why should we trust you? Doyen looked at the Takari representative with understanding. You shouldn't trust us blindly. Trust should be earned, but consider this. We had the military power to destroy the Velari fleet completely. We could have glassed New Haven's surface from orbit and killed every alien soldier there. We didn't. We used precisely the force needed to defend ourselves and no more. We took prisoners and treated them according to our laws of war. Even though they showed us no such mercy, he gestured to the screen showing the battle footage. Every human soldier in that fight was trained to show restraint. Private Yunji Han, one of our youngest warriors, was captured and tortured. When we rescued her, her team didn't slaughter their captors out of revenge. They neutralized the threat and withdrew. That's who we are. We're capable of violence, yes, but we're also capable of control. The council chamber fell silent as representatives considered his words. Finally, a crystalline being from an ancient species called the Vorkai spoke. Their voice resonated like chimes in the wind. In 10,000 years, our species has never encountered another with humanity's combination of capability and restraint. You are dangerous, yes, but perhaps dangerous is what this galaxy needs. The elderly head of the council looked troubled. What do you mean? Look around this chamber, the Vorai continued. The Galactic Council is dominated by the oldest, strongest species, the Velari. Kormas and a few others make all real decisions. Younger species are tolerated, but not respected. Some are even preyed upon, their colonies seized under false pretenses. We all know it happens. We all pretend not to see. The Vorkai's crystalline body flashed with color. Humanity has shown that even the strongest can be challenged. They've proven that youth doesn't mean weakness. Perhaps their presence will bring balance to council that has grown complacent. Over the next several hours, the council debated. Species that had remained silent for centuries suddenly found their voices. The Takari and others like them spoke about the fear they lived with, always worried that their colonies might be next. They spoke about unfair treaties and demands they had accepted because they had no choice. By the end of the session, the council had split into 3 factions. The first, led by the Valerian Kormas, wanted humanity expelled and punished. The second, representing about half the council, wanted humanity accepted with full membership rights. The third, mostly younger species, wanted humanity as allies and protectors. The vote came down to a simple question: would humanity be admitted to the council with full membership, including veto power over major decisions? The result was narrow but clear. Humanity was accepted. The galaxy would never be the same. As part of the agreement, the Velari and Kormas were required to pay massive reparations to New Haven. They had to publicly apologize for their attempted conquest, and they were required to reveal the full list of other species they had subjugated using similar tactics. 4 other species learned that their voluntary submission to Velari protection had been based on lies. Those species immediately sought human support to regain their independence. On New Haven, the rebuilding began. Captain Dian walked through the damaged colony, with Major Sun Hai-kang surveying the destruction. Nearly 200 colonists had died during the battle, along with 63 of the veteran defenders. Every death weighed heavily on his conscience. Was it worth it? Sun Hai asked quietly. Doyen watched as colonists and soldiers worked together to rebuild a damaged building. Children played in a park that had been a battlefield just weeks ago. In the distance, a memorial was being constructed to honor those who had died. We didn't start this fight, Doyen said. We tried for peace, but when peace failed, we protected our people. Yes, it was worth it. Those children playing over there will grow up free instead of enslaved. That's worth any price. Lieutenant Hywen Park landed her damaged fighter for the last time. The aircraft had been hit in the final battle, held together by repairs and sheer luck. She climbed out and patted its hull affectionately. Good ship, she said softly. You earned your rest. Nearby, Corporal Minyu Choi was teaching a group of civilian engineers how to detect and defuse unexploded ordnance. The colony was still littered with traps and explosives from the battle. Always assume there might be one more, he told them. Careful and slow saves lives. In the medical center, Dr. Unishin finished treating the last of the wounded. She was exhausted, having worked almost non-stop for 3 weeks, but all her patients would survive. Every single person brought to her had lived, including some who shouldn't have by any reasonable standard. She sat down for the first time in days and allowed herself to cry, releasing the stress and fear she had held inside. Sergeant T. Jun Oh stood on a hill overlooking the colony, cleaning his rifle one final time. He had fought in 5 major wars on Earth, and now this battle on an alien world. He was 45 years old and felt twice that, but looking at the colony below, seeing people rebuilding and moving forward, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. 10 years later, Captain Dine Kim returned to New Haven for a special ceremony. The colony had grown into a thriving city of 200,000 people. The damaged buildings from the battle had been repaired or replaced. The memorial to those who died stood in the central square, a reminder of the price of freedom.